All right. Good morning, everybody. It is Coffee Talk with Cathy this week. Again, we are back and I'm excited to be here. No coffee this morning. I've already had enough caffeine. I really need to switch to decaf. Anyway, excited to be sharing again with you this Thursday. I think this is a great opportunity as we stream on Facebook and we stream on YouTube and we live stream on LinkedIn. And the idea here is to share some amazing women and the things that they're doing, kind of reflecting to you how you can do it too, right? Because we question and we wonder, and can we really do that? And are we good enough and smart enough and all those great things that we may get in our way and stop us? And so today is no exception. Michele and I originally connected, it's probably been 10 or plus years ago. And I'm not even exactly sure where it was, if it was Allie Brown or if it was I don't know. There's so many maybe different. I'm not even sure, Michele, where it was that we originally connected.
I don't remember either. Actually, nothing.
There's been so much, right? So many things. But I know when we did originally connect, you were in the industry of content writing.
Yeah.
And things have, shifted and morphed and changed for you. And so basically what I'd like to do is introduce you to the group or, to our live stream here and share, first of all, share a little bit about you and how you started and where you started. And then we're going to take a little deeper dive about how you followed a dream that you'd had for, a lot of years and said yes to you. So can you just share a little bit about who you are?
Sure. Yes. And I also want to say, so I do have my coffee. So we got the coffee going.
Mm-hmm.
So I also was known as Michele PW, Michele Pariza Wacek. And I had a copywriting company. I still do have a copywriting company, to be clear. And I built up this copywriting company for many years. And that's exactly how Cathy and I met but really I'm a writer, even more than just a copywriter. And so now, in addition to the copywriting company, I'm also building up a fiction book business that we'll talk about. So I write mysteries, psychological thrillers and cozy mysteries, which are similar to like Agatha Christie, Miss Marple's. And I've got published fiction books as well as the copywriting.
Mm-hmm. Which I love. Nothing came back at it. It had to have been Allie Brown. I'm
it
pretty
had
sure.
To be Allie Brown.
It had to be Allie Brown. Allie Brown, and I totally lost track of her, but yeah, Allie Brown and the groups you were doing. So, and the whole content thing. Now, when you and I were talking and kind of catching up, because you had made this shift, and so when I was looking at your Facebook page, I think you had just launched a new fiction book. Yes. And so you sent me an email kind of sharing a little bit about that and how you'd had a dream basically when you were 3 years old and how that has kind of moved into what it is. Can you share a little bit about that story?
Yeah. So when I was 3 years old, I wanted to, I taught myself to read because I wanted to write stories so badly. And I was part of the problem is because I couldn't read, I would draw little pictures. I'm not a very good artist. I'm probably a better artist back then than I am now. But I would draw these, what I called happy face spiders, which basically looked like little suns. They were a circle with the legs all the way around them in a face. And they were happy face spiders when they were a happy story and sad face spiders when they were a sad story. But I didn't do very many sad stories. But what would I do is I would almost do like a little cartoon. So I would have these little boxes where I put the story and I was using the graphics to prompt me. And then I would go tell my mom the story. And then I would go tell my dad the story. And I was really frustrated because the story would change because I couldn't remember exactly how to say it between my mom and my dad. So that's when I realized I had to crack this. I didn't think of it like this, but I had to crack this word code. So I sat down with old hat, new hat and taught myself to read. So, and then I could write the story. So then what happened was, I wrote a lot of stories when I was a kid and then I got derailed. Because in my 20s, I discovered this whole copywriting company, this whole idea of copywriting. And I started to build a copywriting company. And the whole point of the copywriting company was to support my fiction so that I would have, I could bring in money and then I could work on my fiction. But instead what happened was the copywriting company kind of took off and which was great. And I do enjoy, I always liked writing copy and helping support my clients in that matter. And I use a lot of the skills that I gained with the fiction, quite honestly, but I wasn't feeding that creative part of me. And so I know a lot of entrepreneurs, like when you do something, just, if you're not feeding your whole soul and your creative, your creative elements, even if it doesn't tie in directly to your business, your current business, it can start to really wear on you, which is exactly what happened with me, because I wasn't feeding my creative muse at all. I was just focusing on the copywriting company. And so then in 2015, or actually 2012, my mother was diagnosed with cancer. She ended up dying in 2015. But in 2014, while I was in the hospital with her, she was in ICU. Everyone thought she was going to die. She didn't die, at least at that moment. But I remember sitting there and holding her hand and crying. I was ICU. I was all alone, and I was saying to myself, "Let go and let God." And I'm not going to die with my books inside me. And that's when I realized that the copywriting company was not going to just give me time. So even though I kept saying I built this copywriting company to have time to write fiction, the copywriting company doesn't hand you time. No, your business won't hand you time. You have to make time. So and so that's when I started carving out time. It was about 6 months after that I started working on the book that would become It Began with a Lie, which is the first book in my Secrets of Redemption series, and brought myself back to fiction. So that's, and the thing is now that I'm doing both, it's like I'm much happier and I'm much more at peace, because now I've got the creative that's supporting so they're supporting each other more.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I love that. I mean, I think it's so sad in reality, right? For all of us, there tends to be that aha moment or something, the tragedy or the trauma, whatever is going on, right? That kind of sometimes brings us back to what that lifelong dream is, or that goal. We get so busy doing and forget what's buried deep inside and what we really want to do, right? And I love the fact that the copywriting company took off, and that's actually how I met you, right? Because there were so many people who were looking for copywriting for their website and all of that. But that moment in having that quiet and that peace and understanding that, life was more than just the copywriting and wanting to follow that dream and restart that.
Yes.
And then the make time piece. I think that's a critical, essential piece. We all have the same 24 hours in a day, right, Michele?
Yes.
And I get that all of us are busy and there's a lot going on, but when you've got that deep-seated why and dream that you have, following it and making the time, creating the time, not letting the other things get in the way.
Yeah, I mean, you can make money. The thing is that it's actually, once you finally figured it out, it's easy to make money. But just because you're making money doesn't mean you're necessarily going to find the time. That you have to actually, you have to crack that code just as much as the money piece is. If you need time for your family or to travel or whatever it is, it won't just happen. Like you say, like, I know some entrepreneurs, they create, businesses around a travel lifestyle, which is great. But again, unless you actually create it mindfully, you're not going to have a business that allows you the freedom to travel.
Right. That is so true, because I travel a lot, right? And I go spend time places in a month at a time or whatever, but that's, being online and doing what I'm doing and wanting to meet with people in those areas, right? It's setting that intention and what's important to you in your business and creating that lifestyle business in a way, right? I mean, with your writing and what you're doing and the copywriting. So is there a tip that you could share with those who are watching today that might help them get out of that comfort zone and follow that dream, or listen at least, and kind of let that rebubble back up and step into something?
So I think for me, one of the biggest thing was my identity. So I would say, if you're struggling with this, one thing to look at is your identity, because my identity had turned into, at some point, that I was going to write the book. So someday and if you have a dream like that too, you might have put it as a future. So it's like, as soon as I get to XYZ, so after this launch, I'll have time to paint, after this, or after the kids go back to school, or after this, or after that. So it's like there's always going to be another obstacle, another hurdle. And what finally came really clear, sitting in the ICU with my mom. And the thing is part of what really hit me with her is she was young. I mean, we thought my grandpa lived to be like 97, and she was 70 when she died. So and she was never sick a day in her life. It was one of those just, never sick a day in her life. When she called me, I was sure when she called me and first tell me about the diagnosis, in my head, I'm thinking it's my dad, it's my sisters. And then when she said it, I had to have it repeated a couple of times because it never occurred to me she would be the one that was with cancer first. So, so that and died first in our family, our immediate family. So sitting there, and it's like that's when I realized it's like that's when it really became clear that our time is limited, and if you don't make the time, you won't do it. But just making that, so that helped me push through. But I will say what made it more difficult for me was my identity was wrapped up in the I'm going to eventually do this versus what I'm doing right this second. So I would say if you are struggling to make time and you're struggling with that, it might be that your identity is wrapped into this is going to happen someday instead of this is going to happen now. So I would invite you to start by looking at your language. How do you talk about it? And even if you only do like 5 minutes or just carve out a tiny little time to make one step, like you're going to research it or whatever research things, whatever you need to do, just like one tiny little step, because then you can start to say you're doing it now, and that's going to help with your identity.
Mm-hmm. That's a great tip, actually, right? Rather than that future. I mean, we've got to be thinking that future thinking, but then also I am a book writer, or I am a fiction writer.
I am an author. Yeah, I am a published author. I am writing. The other thing too that I got caught in, which is and if you're an author, you're going to understand. That's why I'm throwing this in there really fast, because I know a lot of you want to write books. Is this idea like, I've got to finish my book. So for so long, for like 15 years, I was finishing my book. Well, the thing is that got me screwed up too, because then when I got close to finishing it, I started to panic because I realized it wasn't like I was finishing. I was like, had multiple books. I had the book. It's right. Like, once I finish that book, what am I going to do? So it's like, I'm done with the book. Wait a second.
Right. The book. And now you got a series of books.
Yeah. Now I've got 15 books published, but that's the thing. I had to change that so that I am an author. I am writing books. I'm writing multiple books. So all of that.
Yeah. Changing the narrative for sure. All right. So if somebody wants to connect with you personally about the writing or just about anything we've talked about here, where's the best place to connect with you? Social?
So I have a kind of at michellepw.com. That's kind of my umbrella site. So you can see links there. So michellepw.com. And then if you want to check out the fiction, that's is mpwnovels.com. So, but you can get there from the Michele PW site. So the Michele PW site is kind of the overarching, and then there are links to the different like copywriting as well as the fiction as well.
Okay, awesome, perfect. So let me finish with my final question. What makes you a yes I can woman?
Well, I think because I said, I said I was going to do it and I did it. So I think that's one of the big things. If you're saying that if you say you're going to do something and you're not doing it, that's something to take a look at. So because you don't want to be in the business of lying to yourself a lot. So I think that to me, yes, I can means that you are in full integrity and you are showing up and doing what you're saying that you're going to do.
Yeah. I love that. Yes, I can. Awesome. Michele, thank you so much for sharing with us today, because I think it's important for people to understand and hear again, right? They're not alone. We all have a dream that we want to follow. And it's by looking at you and others who actually take that action, right? What's that step that's going to move you forward, move that needle forward to that big dream so that you can be creating and living in that creativity that you clearly so desire when you've got a dream, especially when that starts when you're 3 years old, right?
Yes.
Love that. Awesome. All right. For those of you watching too, we'll be interviewing other inspiring, amazing women over the coming weeks. I'm looking for a couple of new people to interview as well. So if you happen to be one of them or know somebody who has a story, an area of brilliance to share, a tip or two with the audience, reach out to me, comment below, or send me an email, because I want to make sure that we're getting the word out about the amazing women that are in this circle, that are in this sphere, right? And that their voice is being heard. So anyway, reach out. We will be back next Thursday with another Coffee Talk, 9 a.m. Pacific time each week. Until then, I hope you have a great, inspired day and live your yes, I can. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.